Imperialism in Southeast Asia. Attraction of Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia was no more immune to European imperialism than India, Asia, or Africa. Parts of Southeast Asia were actually early victims of the 17th century colonization, courtesy of the Portuguese and then the Dutch. The climate of Southeast Asia was tropical, warm year-round, with plenty of regular rainfall. The area had long-grown spices like pepper, cinnamon, and nutmeg, things that were exotic yet desirable to Europeans. These were things that could not be grown in the cool climates of Europe. The location of Southeast Asia was also quite strategic. By definition, the area is located south of China and southeast of India. It had been active in Indian Ocean trade for the better part of 1,000 years. As such, Southeast Asia had a variety of cultures, religions, and ethnicities due to the natural cultural diffusion that was the result of trade. The Muslim gunpowder empires, Ottoman, Safavid, and Mughal, of the 15 and 1600s, dominated Indian Ocean trade by establishing outposts and spreading Islam. These were established trade networks, but not colonial empires. Things changed with the arrival of the Europeans. Europeans began to influence the area with the arrival of the Spanish and the Portuguese in the 1500s. Later, as the power of Portugal began to wane, the Dutch, British, and the French began establishing colonies in Southeast Asia. Mainland Southeast Asia. France and Britain dominated the mainland nations of Southeast Asia. France controlled the eastern portion known as French Indochina, today's countries of Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, while Britain controlled the western nations of Burma, Malaysia, and Singapore. Only Thailand, or Siam as it was called then, remained independent during this time period. King Mongkut and his son Chulalongkorn began to modernize the country by creating schools and reforming the legal system, much as Japan had done. The real reason Siam was allowed to remain independent, however, was that it was provided a buffer between eastern French and western British territories. Indonesia and Philippines. The Dutch colonized the Indonesian islands, and like other European nations, they transferred valuable cash crops there. Crops like tobacco, cinchona, the bark of this tree was used to make quinine, the anti-malaria drug, and rubber trees were planted in this tropical area. By 1914, nearly all the world's rubber was produced in Indonesia. The Philippines were originally explored by the Spanish sailor Magellan, who staked a colonial claim there in 1521. The Philippines changed hands in 1898 after the Spanish American War when the Spanish sold them to the United States.